Alrighty guys, so we are going to be working on activity 2.2. This one is about experimenting with the differences between drawing from memory and drawing from observation. So we are in the observation unit. I'm going to go ahead and put my name at the top. You should write your own name. Okay, this is a demo. And you can see here it says first you need to decide what you have on hand. So the reason for that is because in the second part you're going to need to look at it. So if you say, oh, I'm going to draw a banana, but you don't actually have a banana, not going to work. Okay, so you need to find a fruit or a vegetable that you have, preferably something that's raw and in its whole form. You can cut it in half if you want to try something and make it a little more interesting, or you can just set it out in front of you. I've got a nice little apple here that I'm going to be using as my reference, but you can see for the first activity, it says they are going to draw it without looking at it. So I've kind of got it in my head what it looks like, but I'm only going to use my memory. Now this says I can use a pencil or a pen. I'm going to go ahead and just use the blue pen that I have in my hand. And I'm going to go ahead and see if I can draw this thing from memory. So I know it's a rounder apple. And right now I have the apple sort of set aside, but I can't see it and I don't know exactly what it looks like. So I'm just going to take a guess from my head. Now for some of you, you're probably thinking, Miss Ernie, that already looks like a real apple. Yeah, I know, because I've been drawing for a long time. But I want to push myself to see how much I can actually remember. So what I'm doing right now is just using some hatching, some cross hatching to create some values. And I'm just going to spend my time here drawing this apple to the best of my ability from memory. So I'm going to go ahead and pause this video and I will jump back when it's time to show you the next step. Alright guys, you can see I've kind of finished up. I added some darker values in there and just kind of doing some loose hatching here just to give it a little something. But you can see this is just seeing activity, so I'm not worried about it being absolutely perfect, but I do want to see some values in here, like where would you think that the darkest part of the apple is versus where where it actually is. We're going to find out in a minute. So for this first one, just to clarify, you are not looking at the object, you are drawing from memory. Okay, so you have the object, but you're putting it somewhere out of sight so you can't see it. Okay, you're going to kind of push yourself, whether you're using a pencil or a pen, to really get some values in there and decide what that thing looks like in space. So the next section says you're going to set the fruit or vegetable out in front of you on the table now. And you're going to observe everything from its overall shape to its details within. And you can shade, but you also don't have to. I want you to really look at proportion. How wide is it as tall? And how do the different shapes overlap? So now I'm going to take my apple here, and I know it's going to be tough for you guys to see this. So I'm going to probably just set it here in front of me. But you can see I'm going to really look at this apple from the way that I see it. The first thing I notice is that this drawing was a very from the front view, like I was looking right at the apple, but from where I'm sitting, I can see a lot more of the top of the apple. So I'm going to go ahead and see if I can capture this a little more accurately than what I had before in the last one. So instead of the stem being up here, it's way down here, and it's actually sort of a hole. I'm going to try and get this so you guys can see a little better. Here we go. Okay. I'm going to put my apple so you guys can see it too somewhere. All right. So I've got this stem kind of coming out, and it's a pretty short stem. And you can see I'm going a lot slower now, and I'm really looking at how this apple works in space and how all of the texture lines from the apple are sort of coming out, down, and around They're really sort of coming around the apple. You could call these cross contour lines, but actually the apple has them. It's sort of like striated in its texture. So I'm just paying attention to how those lines are actually going up and over the surface. What's happening here is it's already looking more three-dimensional. It's because I'm just paying attention to what I'm actually seeing versus what my mind can kind of guess of what I'm seeing. I'm also paying attention to the cast shadow. It's sort of happening a little bit differently here. I've got like a center cast shadow, and then it sort of kind of comes out like this. So I'm going to go ahead and shade this like this. And again, you don't have to really spend a ton of time shading. What we're looking for here is proportion to what we're actually seeing. And what I'm going to be looking for when I look at these activities from you guys is sort of a, flat from memory versus what I'm actually seeing out in front of me, okay? And you're going to notice the difference if you're really looking and you have this object out in front of you. You're going to notice. So other things I notice is that this stem has a little bit of darkness on here. I'm just going to push the shading just a little bit here to kind of get you guys to see what I'm talking about. There's a dark area here that the light is not hitting. So I'm going to go ahead and use my pen, and I'm going to shade in the direction of the form. So what that means is I'm not just shading flat, I'm kind of using curved lines to shade in the direction, kind of follow those contour lines that we had from earlier. Okay. And I'm just going to keep looking at this and really try to decide what is it that I actually see. So you'll notice a couple really stark differences between these two. Let's see if I can get them both on here for you guys. All right. So one big difference is just the fact that I can see this from above a lot more, and you can tell my viewpoint is different. And the other thing is the details feel more sure. I'm really looking at what it is that I'm seeing on the apple and the differences between the lightness and the darkness. Now for you, it's going to depend on the vegetable or the fruit that you choose. But generally, when you're drawing from life, you're going to have light and dark areas. So I can see some stuff in here. Shading. And there's a highlight here. The light is like really reflecting on it. I'm going to try and set that aside so I don't shade it in on accident. But you can see I'm really just looking. I'm spending a lot of time looking at my apple, not just at my paper, okay? So this is the goal here, is that I really want to see, and you could do the same thing with a pencil. You could shade with a pencil. But I'm going to be looking for, as your teacher, a more honest viewpoint from where you're sitting. Typically, the fruit is going to be, under your eye level. Your eye level is where your eyes are, straight out, okay? So if it's sitting on the table that you're writing on, it's probably not at your eye level. It's below your eye level. All right. And you can see with the lighting, I know, the lighting here is tough for you to understand, but it's coming from above. So all this stuff around the side of the apple, like you guys are seeing a reflection here, but I'm not seeing as much of that. I see a little bit of it here, but it's also dark down here. Okay. And I can push my shadow just a little bit more. Just kind of fine tune it. And you can hatch, cross hatch. If you're using a pencil, you can use tonal value. Okay. But the goal here is to really explore the differences between when we're drawing from our memory, our brains are not able to store all these little details. Even if you're super smart, it doesn't really matter. It's almost information overload. And so looking at things from observation is going to give you a more honest, replica or depiction of what it is that you're drawing. So you can see the differences here, how this is good, but it sits kind of flat, doesn't it? Where here, I'm really looking at the form, it was sort of at like this angle for me. Okay, so you can see how accurate, even in size, I'm almost exact and I didn't even trace it. Alrighty. So that's kind of what we're looking for here. And again, you can use pen or pencil, whichever you prefer. I really like drawing in pen. I think it's kind of fun. And the idea that you can't erase sort of just reinforces that whole, I'm sketching right now, I'm seeing, and I'm recording what I'm seeing. This is not about having, 100% perfect masterpiece. This is about feeling okay, exploring what you're seeing and recording it down on paper. Okay, so you can see it says, how do the shapes overlap? You can see here I'm really paying attention to, instead of just a straight line where the stem comes out, I'm really looking at, okay, this is round here and the stem is a light green versus it being a dark brown like we all, would imagine it to be. What does it really look like? This is what we're going for. So you're going to take your time and just observe. Okay, so that is our activity. And like I said, you're going to use a fruit or a vegetable. You're not going to look at it here, and you are going to look at it here, and you should see a difference. So go ahead and have fun with this one.